1850. The Australian continent is a giant prison at the edge of the world. Arid, harsh, forgotten. 1 year later, it becomes a magnet for the entire globe. What changed? Not wool, not wheat, but a brilliant glint from deep within the earth. Gold. In 1851, a single discovery ignited a frenzy, a fever that would reshape not just the destiny of Australia, but the global flow of money, people, and power. Imagine a silent land where the rhythm of life was marked only by the bleating of sheep and the slow crawl of supply ships from Britain. And then, in February 1851, a cry echoed from near Bathurst. Edward Hargreaves had found gold. A few months later, the colossal gold fields of Victoria were uncovered. The world held its breath. The news was a spark in a tinderbox racing across continents. London, San Francisco, Guangzhou, headlines screamed of a promised land where fortunes lay right beneath your feet. In 1852 alone, 370,000 people landed in Australia, an unthinkable number. Who were they? English farmers who abandoned their fields, American sailors who jumped ship, entire families from Guangdong carrying the hopes of generations. They crammed onto vessels, crossing oceans for months with nothing but a dream as their luggage. This wasn't just migration, this was an invasion of dreams. Victoria became the epicenter. From empty plains, Ballarat and Bendigo erupted into chaotic tent cities, home to tens of thousands. And Melbourne, from a sleepy town of 29,000 in 1851, it transformed into marvelous Melbourne, with 140,000 people just a decade later. The River of Gold built grand boulevards, opera houses, and libraries, turning it into the second richest city in the entire British Empire, second only to London. But the golden dream had a brutal price. Behind the magnificent facades were slums drowning in mud and disease. Typhoid, dysentery, and mining accidents claimed lives every single day. For every one man who struck it rich, thousands more were left with nothing, buried in debt.
This is our chance.
The gold fever turned friends into enemies and hope into desperation. The government didn't see them as builders of a new world, but as machines for digging up money. They imposed an absurd tax called a miner's license, payable whether you found gold or not. Brutal police raids poured fuel on the fire. It was the breaking point. In late 1854, in Ballarat, the miners rose up. They burned their licenses, raised the flag emblazoned with the Southern Cross, and swore an oath. We swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other and fight to defend our rights and liberties. They built a crude wooden fort, the Eureka Stockade. At dawn, on December 3rd, the military attacked. The battle lasted just 15 minutes. At least 27 people were killed. The rebellion was crushed in a sea of blood. But you cannot kill an idea. The spirit of Eureka lived on. It became an eternal symbol of the struggle for justice, for equality, for a fair go, the very idea that would forge Australian democracy. The gold rush wasn't just a white man's game. Tens of thousands of Chinese miners arrived, bringing with them incredible skill and discipline. But not everyone was welcomed. They became targets of brutal racism, of unjust laws like the poll tax, and the flashpoint for bloody riots like the one at Lambing Flat. But they stayed, resilient and determined, weaving an indispensable thread into the vibrant, multicultural tapestry of modern Australia. The goldfields were a melting pot of cultures: Irish, German, American, Italian, Chinese, living together, clashing together, and building together. In one decade, Australia produced over 1/3 of the world's gold. Gold didn't just fill the pockets of a lucky few, it poured confidence into the veins of the Australian people. It financed monumental public works, attracted the best and brightest minds, and planted a belief in their hearts. Their future was not as a colony, but as an independent nation. The 6 colonies, though still divided by their own laws, even by different railway gauges, now had something in common: an identity, bold, independent, democratic, and ready to decide its own destiny. January 1st, 1901, the Commonwealth of Australia was born, a nation forged in the defiant spirit of the goldfields. The gold rush ended. The mines eventually ran dry, but its legacy is eternal, etched into the very DNA of Australia. It is the daring to take a risk, the grit to demand a fair go, and the iron will to forge your own future. Gold turned a scattered collection of colonies into a nation. And in our next episode, we will follow Australia as it steps into the 20th century, through 2 world wars, shifting allegiances, and its journey to becoming a modern global power.